are any tech issues along the way, please feel free to raise your hand or even just unmute and let me know. I'd like this to be a bit of an interactive session if we can. There'll be a few interactive elements along the way, so I'm not sure if any of you have used Slido before, but if you've got your phones on hand, that would be fantastic. Because I would like you to participate in this with me to save me talking to myself for the next 45 minutes or so. Okie dokie. So a little bit about myself. So I'm Hardeep. I'm the Resource and Inclusion Advisor here at Higgs LLP. I joined the firm in 2024 and my role is to look after all the early career and central recruitment here in the business. And whilst that means that I help shape opportunities for people at the very start of their careers, for people like yourself who are starting to think about what their future in law might actually look like. So early careers looks at those who are interested in pursuing a career in the legal side of law, but also in the professional services side of law as well, because there is an entire ecosystem that goes into running a law firm, and that involves departments such as finance, as IT, as marketing. There's also HR where I belong. So that's what I tend to do in a nutshell, and I spend a lot of time going out to schools, to universities and speaking to students like yourself to let you know of all the opportunities that are available. I'm also very passionate about equality, diversity and inclusion. So that means for me, levelling the playing field, especially when it comes to the legal sector. So I also get myself involved in a lot of inclusion related projects at the firm. So that means looking at things like diversity initiatives around disability confidence and making sure that anybody and everybody who wants to apply and work for the firm has the absolute opportunity to do so. We're not limited and there's no barriers in the way with regards to that. So that's what I do in a nutshell. So who are we? We are Higgs LLP. We are a law firm of approximately 270 people based at the waterfront in Brierley Hill. We are a proud member of the Black Country community and we've been around for 150 years providing legal services to all kinds of clients. So we're a regional full service law firm, which means we provide commercial and private client legal services advice. So we do lots of work around commercial, which involves businesses, so helping businesses set up, merge or sell. We offer advice around employment law to employers and employees for things that go wrong. We advise on dispute resolution. We advise on commercial property, so on leases and on businesses that want to sell their corporations onwards. And on the private client side, we do things like residential conveyancing, so your typical buying and selling and transferring of a property. We help those to make a will, with trust, with tax, with estates administration. We help with family law, so for those that are going through a divorce or need help with child arrangements. And obviously, we also help with private client and clinical negligence too, so those who've been involved with a bit of negligence from a medical perspective. So we help both the local community from a commercial and a private client perspective. So in terms of our values spell out the word clear. Now, these are not just words that we've stuck on a poster and put on the wall and sort of forgotten about. Actually, these are words that we absolutely live by, and they mean everything to us. And they spell out the word clear. And each letter of that word clear stands for something. So the C stands for care, the L stands for legacy, the E stands for excellence, the A for authenticity, and R for relationships. And without each one of these values, the values as a whole completely crumble. So care is at the heart of everything that we do. And we care about our clients, we care about the work that we give to them, we care about the advice, we care about the support that they need, and we care about the people that we have in the business. We care about our employees and our staff. In terms of our legacy, we've been working in this community since 1875, so for the last 150 years, and that's wild actually. I need to sense check my knowledge on this, but I don't think that the light bulb had actually been invented at that point. So it's wild to think that actually people were probably writing contracts under candlelight, whereas now, 150 years later, we have the likes of AI at our fingertips. So that's quite insane when you think about the legacy that we have and how far we've come and how important it is to reflect on those last 150 years and to look forward to the next 150 years and what that might bring. In terms of excellence, it really matters to us in terms of the work that we do, how we treat our clients, the quality of work, the quality of advice, the quality of our time and conversations that we have. And that all ties into the authenticity piece, because we are an approachable firm, we're an approachable business, we are human first. And our clients and our people are absolutely respected. They are heard and they are valued. And to be authentic in ourselves, we're Black Country proud, which I think is a great quality of us anyway, makes us a really strong firm in that respect. So that authenticity piece to me is really nice and really important. And lastly, we have relationships as well, which is absolutely at the heart of our success. And like I said at the beginning, without any one of these values, everything falls apart. So values are really important. And the reason that I talk to you about our values at this point in sort of the level that I am is because when you are thinking about writing your CVs or thinking about doing your applications, there's a research element that is very important. And that when you're thinking about the employer that you're working with, what are those values? How do they embody them? Do they embody them? What kind of research will you do? So we take our time to write these values and we take our time to shout about them and demonstrate them. And if you were applying for a role with ourselves and I was to interview you, I would be looking for how you have heard about our values, how you've digested those, and how you think you relate to those. And I'll let you in on a secret. One of the questions I always ask candidates is which one of our values do you align with the most on a personal basis? And it's always such a nice question to ask because you get to know the heart of that person. So what does a modern law firm look like? Traditional views of a law firm typically range from imagining a bunch of old men in suits all the way through to Meghan Markle in the TV show Suits. But the reality is we are a modern law firm that do not work in the office on Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. on a full-time basis. We work in a hybrid manner. And that flexibility is really important because, again, we're human first. And that means we find that flexibility to work around our personal lives and our work life, prioritising each thing as appropriately. So typically, and on average, you spend around 40% of your time in the office, which equates to about 2 days in the office and 3 days at home. In terms of some demographic stats as well, 69% of our workforce at Higgs is female. 37% of our workforce is under the age of 34 years of age. Less than 10% of the workforce attended a fee-paying school. Almost 35% of the workforce are also the primary carer for a child or for children under the age of 18. And as a modern law firm, we use the latest technology and systems, things like digital dictation, all the way through to AI portals for client onboarding. And just to kind of recap very quickly in terms of the roles that are available in a law firm, please do not just get caught up in the fact that there are just legal roles available. Like I said, there's an entire ecosystem that goes into running a law firm. So I just wanted to spend a few minutes just to let you know of the type of roles that we actually have. So if you weren't aware, that you can have some thoughts to some alternative work that you can do, especially when it comes to building some experience in the meantime. So in terms of legal roles, you would typically start out as a legal assistant, as a paralegal, and you would kind of find your feet in these roles to understand what it takes to provide support from an administrative perspective, to have some of your own case files, to speak to some clients, to handle some actual documents and some real kind of legal documents in your hands and process those. When you build confidence and you progress through that career ladder, naturally your next step becomes being a trainee solicitor. And then when you qualify, you become an associate. your next step after that is to become a senior associate, and then you have the opportunity to become a legal director or a partner in a business. And as you grow through that ladder of your legal role, your skills just get broader and broader and broader, and you become more of an expert in your area. In terms of the non-legal roles that we have, similar thing in terms of the early career work, you start off as document solution assistant. Now, the document solution assistants are such a pillar of strength to the business because they are the ones that handle and manage all of the incoming and all of the outgoing posts into the business. Now, if you imagine the private client work that we do in terms of the wills that we receive, and if you think about the leases that might come through, really old, really sensitive documents, we need someone who knows how to tenderly handle those and scan them and store them and ensure that they're distributed to the right departments. So just by the nature of handling those roles, you have so much experience through to seeing the type of things that cross your desk. You can then progress on into becoming, say, a secretary, where you listen to a lot of digital dictation and type out a lot of the correspondence, whether that's a meeting note, whether it's a file note, whether it's actual correspondence on a case, whether it's a letter to a client, whether it's a letter to court, whether it's a letter to the other side, whether it's a dispute. You would be involved in so much, just again by the nature of the role, that will give you such an exposure as to what it takes to work in a law firm. And without that secretarial support, the trainee solicitors, the associates, the senior associates, they would be lost. So it's a really important role to have. And the PAs, if you find yourself to be quite an organised person who likes to have a bit of a handle on the way that things are done, in the way that things are organised, the diaries are sorted, events are booked, refreshments are arranged, travel is accommodated for, then a PA role is exactly that. And the facilities teams, they're all about making sure that the lights are switched on in the business, that we have somewhere to attend to. And again, that health and safety aspect of their role is really important to running a business. And the receptionists as well, they provide a very excellent service to clients as they are sort of part of that window shop where clients see them first. We also have other teams as well, like the people team where I'm from. So we have administrators, advisors, managers and directors. There's lots of management roles that we have across the non-legal and the central roles. We have roles within finance. So that could be a finance assistant or could be working as an accountant. And that in itself is just an incredible role to have. We have IT, so you can work as help desk, you can work within the infrastructure, you can be a developer to help create efficiencies for the business, to help those trainee solicitors or to help those associates or solicitors in the business to find efficiencies in terms of the way that they operate. So in this day and age, looking at AI and developing that to make it relevant to lawyers in terms of the way that they carry out their day-to-day tasks. We have compliance as well. Of course, we have to comply with lots of legal and statutory obligations when it comes to GDPR. So we have somebody who manages our standards and ethics to make sure that we're all compliant. And then we also have business development, because without business development, nobody would know who we are. We wouldn't be able to build those relationships with clients to grow as a business. So as you can imagine, and hopefully that is quite clear enough for you guys to see, that there is an entire ecosystem behind a law firm. There's not just legal roles, there are also non-legal roles, both of which are equally important. So I'd like to quickly move on to now, and I do hope this works, is for you to pull out your phones. And if you could, scan the QR code that you see on this screen, and it should, in just a second, as soon as I activate it, take you to a word cloud where you can answer the question on screen, which is, when you think about a career in law, what skills do you need? And I will activate that now. So if you can scan that QR code and just give a bit of thought and consideration as to what skills you think you need to work in law. Might just give it a second or two just to load, because I am having a few IT issues. But oh no, it's coming through. Let me just bring that across here so you guys can all see what's coming through. Can someone just give me a few thumbs up if you can see this? Perfect, thank you. Just give this a couple of more minutes to see what words come through. So think about the skills that you think you need to work in a law firm? What skills as a person? So communication is clearly a popular word here. A lot of you are saying communication. Confidence is great. You do need confidence to work in a law firm. You definitely need to be organised. I think that's a fantastic choice of word as well. But what other things do you think are needed? Really think about, yeah, attention to detail. Whoever's put that in, that's a fantastic choice of word. That attention to detail is so key, isn't it? To make sure that when you are being given a set of responsibilities, that you are able to see that through very well with that attention to detail. Teamwork, excellence, adaptability, confidence. I really like these words that are coming through. Consistency, yeah. Time management, good argumentative skills. I like that one. Hopefully not to challenge your team though. Excellent. Thank you guys so much. So clearly we can see that communication and teamwork are one of the most popular ones coming through as a choice of word. And you are absolutely correct. I do think that without communication, you're not able to work very well in a team, because if you're not able to articulate any sort of strengths or weaknesses or ideas that you have, then you can't really collaborate. So it all feeds into another one, and these are excellent. So what this is telling me is that you guys are already sort of ahead of the game in terms of thinking about the skills that you need. I'm going to move on to the next poll. If you don't mind scanning the next slide, which will ask you to answer a question on how do you think that you can start to build these skills? I'll just start that poll now. So what ways do you think that you can start to build these skills? And again, just bear with me because I think it might be running a little bit slow. No, you guys are already ahead of me. It's my side that's slow. Let me just bring this over so we can all see it together. Yep, work experience is a fantastic way to build these skills. Internships are also a fantastic way to build these skills. Volunteering, absolutely. Volunteering is such a good answer because there are so many people that actually exclude that as an option. But volunteering on a CV is so fantastic to see because it just shows that you've dedicated your personal time to build on your skills, which says a lot about you as a person. So I really like volunteering. Networking is fantastic too, absolutely. And the likes of LinkedIn, may I add, is such a good platform because it means that you can connect with employers before you're even in front of them. And it's a digital CV at the end of the day. So networking is fantastic. Just give that a few more minutes. Mooting competitions, extracurricular activity, research. So this is all fantastic stuff. So what this all says to me, based on the first poll that I just did and the second poll, is that already for your age and for where you kind of are in your sort of career stage, you're already aware of what it takes to build the skills and know about the skills that you need. So thank you so much for this. I'm going to close the poll. And I think with those kind of thought processes in mind, what I would like to do now is just run you through two CVs that I've got. I've got a bad CV and I've got a good CV. If you are all open to it, because I would absolutely love it, if you could just raise your hand, and if you feel comfortable and confident enough to come on microphone, just to kind of point out any bad things that stand out to you in this particular CV. So if you were me, or if you were someone recruiting for a role and this CV came through to you from Samantha Justice, what sort of stands out to you here is, well, this isn't a great CV, and any particular reasons why? So anything that stands out to you on the face of it, anything that stands out as a red flag or a concern, or what it might say about the person behind the CV. Does anybody feel comfortable to
Bad
say?
formatting.
What was that, sorry?
Bad formatting.
Bad formatting, absolutely. It is terrible formatting. And specifically, what kind of things have you noticed in that bad formatting?
There is no consistent, like some letters are capital, some are small lowercase, and then there are spelling mistakes too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm just seeing in the chat bar as well, a few things are coming through. Thank you so, so much, Fatima, for coming on and saying that. Really appreciate that. Someone said in the chat that the hobbies and the interests aren't relevant. Absolutely. And the fact that it's in bright red just kind of draws your attention to it unnecessarily. But I think you'll be surprised, and I don't want this to come across as a sort of unusually obvious example of a CV, because actually you'd be very surprised at how common it is to receive CVs like this, which is why it's very important for me to have the opportunity to let you guys know what is an absolute no, but what is also really good. I mean, this person in this fictitious CV has written some things that I have seen in the past about how they have a private Instagram where they post edits and they get decent likes. That has no relevance to the role. And they've mentioned kind of quite, what's the word I'm looking at? Quite blasé-ish. Oh, I also did a mock trial at school in year 11, but we lost. So it just kind of shows that their priorities and their interest in what really matters isn't there. And unfortunately, that just sort of paints quite a negative image of the person behind the CV. And if you think about the values that I was sharing with you at the beginning, it doesn't really sound like someone who could embody our values, especially when it comes to that excellence piece, because there's definitely not any excellence in the CV in terms of the quality of what's been presented. In terms of the next CV that I've got here, this is the same CV for Samantha Justice. It's the same sort of experience that she's got. Is there anything here that you think, gosh, that looks so much better? Or anything that sort of stands out to you if you were a hiring manager looking at the CV to think, actually, I'd love to know a little bit more because of X, Y, and Z? Does anyone feel comfortable enough to give me their thoughts? Separated sections, yeah, absolutely. Formal language, perfect. And I think as well, what's really nice, and this is a really key tip for yourselves, is the fact that the key achievements are right at the top. So when you receive a high volume of CVs and you're looking at candidates all the time, what draws your eyes naturally to this is the fact that this person has delivered a successful group presentation project that was praised for the clarity and teamwork. They volunteered at a local community advice centre. They achieved a distinction in their BTEC business coursework, and they represented the college in debating competitions. What does that say about that person? It says that they really care. They're very organised, they're very passionate, and they're very proud of everything that they've done. If I asked you guys just to pop in the chat, or if you're comfortable to come off the microphone and say, what sort of skills are you seeing through this? What would you say? Don't be shy, guys. I'm not going to bite. Yeah, good communication, confidence. They're backing up what they're saying, aren't they? From the way that they have written that CV, they are saying they represented college in debating competitions. They were praised for clarity and teamwork. That they volunteer in the community. That they're able to back that up with the way that it's been written. Absolutely. And what's really important as well is that they've summarised their skills at the bottom, and they've given an example of exactly how they have demonstrated that skill, which I think is always such a nice thing to do, because you don't have to assume. You can see what it is that they've said. And more importantly, it gives me a reason to want to pick up the phone and say, oh, I want to know more about this person because they've done so many things I'm interested in. Let's learn a little bit more. So once you've drafted your CV, and I really hope that, and I know this is quite a quick sort of whistle stop looking at a bad and a good CV at a very sort of surface level, but I'm just wondering if you guys have seen anything on the bad CV or the good CV that resonates with yourself. If you've, and you don't have to say anything on the chat or off microphone here, but I just wonder if you ask yourself, actually, I've done that. I'm guilty of that on a bad CV in myself. Or if you've seen something good in the good CV and you're thinking, actually, I'm really good because I'm doing something like that. My CV looks like this, then that's amazing. My advice to you would be to put your key achievements at the top. That is always so refreshing to see, because it draws our attention to the things that you've done well, and it makes us want to know more. So the STAR method is something that we encourage all applicants to consider when we invite them in for interviews. The STAR method is a really good way to set the scene and to help keep your thoughts on track when you are answering a question that's being asked to you. So essentially, the STAR word is broken down into the situation, the task, the action, and the result. So when you're being asked a question, you are best to respond to it by setting the scene in terms of when, where, and what was happening. Then you need to think about the task, describe what you needed to do to achieve that task, and then go on to talking about how you explain what you did, how did you achieve that action. And at the end of your answer, you should be sharing with the hiring manager in front of you what you learned or what the outcome was. So you're setting a scene, it's very clear and it's structured, and it helps you keep confident. And naturally, again, we are human first. I get nervous even to this day, and I've done tons of interviews in the past. I've even been interviewed in the past, but you get to that point where someone's asked you a question, your mind's running at 1,000 miles an hour, you get nervous and you've completely lost your train of thought and you find yourself rambling, or you find yourself trying to buy some additional time to try and bring that question back to the front of your mind. The STAR method is really good because if you can just remember situation, task, action, result, you know what you've said and what you need to say next. And it should give you that confidence to really share your example very well. And also it helps the hiring manager really understand the flow of what it is that you're saying, what you're demonstrating. So here's an example of a question of tell me about a time you had to work together in a group or a team. A bad answer example is, I worked in a group at school and it was fine. We did a project, we worked together and we got it done. That is not setting the scene, it's not explaining the task, it's not explaining what they did, and neither is it sharing the result about the outcome that they achieved and what it was that they learned. So that is not an example that you should give. And again, if you find yourself sort of answering a question first and it is quite brief in this kind of way and you're thinking, oh sugar, I wish I said something else, you can still expand. You can still go back to the beginning and say that project that I did was about X, Y, and Z, and then continue to go through that STAR method until you've answered the question with confidence, sorry. So a good answer to the same question would be, at school, we had to do a group project and we had to present it to the class. Our task was to research the topic, prepare slides, and each speak for a minute, making sure that we understood and covered the key parts correctly. I suggested that we make a shared document so that we could all add our research. I helped to divide up the topics so everyone had a part, and I checked in with one of the group who was a little bit more quieter to see if she was okay with her section and if she wanted to practice it first. And the result was we managed to finish it on time, and our teacher said that we explained the topic really clearly. I felt more confident speaking in front of the class, and it taught me how to make sure everyone in a team feels included. Now, if you were to have this type of answer to a simple question like, tell me about a time you had to work together in a group or a team, what skills do you think, or have you heard from this fictitious answer to the fictitious question? What skills stand out to you? Again, please feel free to come off microphone and come on microphone and shout out your thoughts or type them into the chat bar. I really like the fact that we're engaging with each other. Don't be shy, guys. Promise I'm not going to bite. Okay. Yeah, organised, leadership skills, confidence, adaptability to the task that's been given. Yeah, completely agree. Absolutely. I think it's really nice as well, that the fact that you can see here that this person made sure that everyone in their team was included. They took a bit of a leadership role on, without even sort of boastfully saying that they were a leader. They're just sort of very authentically said that they made sure, in fact, that's absolutely correct. The fact that they suggested an idea shows leadership and assertiveness, which is really nice. They understood that there was teamwork involved. And it also gave them an opportunity to reflect on a skill that they had learned, because they said that they felt more confident at the end of speaking in front of the class, and it made sure that everyone in the team feels included. So that was absolutely important. Okay. So my tips to you then in an interview, things that you should do: ensure you know where you are going and how you're going to get there. Try to relax and show your natural personality. Again, linking it back to our core values of authenticity, which I really do admire. It's really important that you don't turn up to an interview like a robot, but you actually have the opportunity to be yourself, because it is a two-way street at the end of the day. As much as you are there to interview for a job, you are also interviewing the business to make sure that they're a right fit for you. And that is very, very important to remember. Make sure that you demonstrate your enthusiasm and a positive attitude. Smile. Don't be afraid to acknowledge if you're feeling nervous. As I've already said a few times already, we're human first. And actually, nerves are quite a nice thing to see in an interview, because it shows exactly that. And if you do not understand the question that's being asked in front of you, it's absolutely fine to ask for clarification, and it's absolutely fine to ask for some more time to consider your response, especially if you're taking yourself back to that staff sort of technique. Take a copy of your CV, take a copy of the job description, take a copy of the documents that the business has offered to you as a reminder of the content prior to the interview. Be prepared to talk about it. There are some people that might feel a type of way, different businesses, and I can't speak for everybody, but for me personally, I think it's really nice when people do bring in a copy of their CV or a copy of their key achievements, and you refer down to your paperwork, because if you think about it, as hiring managers, we refer down to our paperwork to keep us on track. You absolutely should do the same thing. So I would not be afraid to do that at all. I really appreciate those that do that. Observe the basics: good manners, regular eye contact, a firm handshake and a smile. Please be authentic. And of course, wear smart clothes. It demonstrates respect that you are taking the role seriously. And the reason I say wear smart clothes is because I have witnessed firsthand those who have turned up to an interview in a crop top before. It's absolutely fine to wear a crop top, just not to an interview. So although it sounds quite obvious, wearing smart clothes does demonstrate that respect, and very important. And as I said at the beginning, research the company and the person who is interviewing you if possible. Now, for us at Higgs, we have an About Us page, and each one of us in the business have a profile and a bit of a biography about who we are, how we've ended up at the business, what our specialisms are, what our interests are. So it's really important that you take the time to research the business and the person that's interviewing you. And through the research that you have done, make sure that you have questions to ask during the interview and at the end of the interview. Just have a conversation. You can turn an interview into a conversation. In my perspective, you're doing a grand job. This is just a quote from people in the business, actually. They've said that law firms value clear professional communication and reflection on experiences. So school activities, volunteering and part-time jobs, they all develop relevant skills. And being future ready means building confidence and curiosity about the world around you. So I hope those three things give you a little bit of motivation there and inspiration. And my last thing to leave with you before we open the floor to any sort of questions is my list of takeaways. So you definitely don't need to have your whole future figured out right now. Law firms, especially the likes of us at Higgs, we really value skills. We don't just go for grades. Academics do absolutely matter, but we do value potential over polish. So that communication, teamwork, and organisational skills all matter in the way that you demonstrate that to us. Keep your CV clear, keep it honest, keep it professional. Let it show your interests and your strengths. Please don't lie on your CV, because it will come out in an interview and it just reflects poorly on you then. Use a STAR method to give clear, confident interview answers and relate that to real examples. And you do not have to have any sort of exaggerated or wild examples. They can be anything as simple as something that you do with your sibling, if that's the only experience that you have. It's how you articulate it and the skills that you used throughout that example. And the STAR method, again, is so key for getting that across. Your interests, if you have any interest around court documentaries or mock trials, that can link into your passion for law. Every small step that you take now helps your future. Even joining this webinar today helps towards that. Keep asking questions, seek opportunities, and remember, you all have something valuable to offer. And recall any experiences that you have had and write down everything that you've done straight after the fact. What skills did you use? What did you achieve? And add it to your CV. And lastly, network and connect with employers on LinkedIn. I believe you have to be the age of 16 to have an account, which I think you all are at that age. So please do network with employers online. I do recognise a few names actually in the group today, and I know that some of you already are on LinkedIn and have already connected with me, which is lovely to see. But again, LinkedIn is a digital CV. If you can get yourself passively in front of employers, it's just going to help you out incredibly for the future. And my last little quote here, which I've used before and I do like to use it, is you don't have to have it all figured out to move forward, because even Google Maps needs you to start moving before it tells you when to turn. So that is everything from me. I hope that you found that sort of whistle stop CV and application support helpful. Any questions, more than happy to answer. And yeah, thank you guys for being so present and engaging.
Paddy, that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you. And I hope all of our students and any parents who are on with students as well have found that really, really useful. And I'm really glad that actually students have been putting answers in the chat, because I think what you've demonstrated, Hardeep, is that engagement is half of the battle, and getting, thinking about your skills, thinking about actually how you communicate, even just as simple as answering questions on here and having the confidence to do that, and engaging with employers is really, really key, isn't it? Getting involved.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that a lot of the things that you've said have really given students who are applying for law, or indeed any sector, some really good ideas. And Faye is putting some links in the chat there to some other sort of resources. If anybody's got questions, please put them in the chat. There were a couple of questions that were asked in advance, so I'm just going to ask one question before we go to the chat function there, and that is, you mentioned about AI. And can you just talk a little bit about whether or not it is okay for students to kind of use AI in any way when looking at applications and CVs?
Absolutely. So I get this question quite a lot. Now, I think using AI is absolutely fine. I think it's how you use AI. There are two ways that you can use it. You can use it to generate your thoughts and your response for you, which has no depth or meaning or relevance to you as a person. And that's typically when people get caught out and it is very sort of obvious. The other way is when you know everything that you want to say, that your mind is so full of thoughts and examples, but you just don't know how to articulate it. And using AI to help you get the ball rolling is probably where I would say to use it. Don't just put something in and copy and paste it out. Read the sort of help it gives you, and then take the time to say, actually, that's all my thoughts on paper. How do I now write this that sounds authentic from me? Because when we have your CV or your application or your cover letter come through, we will have a conversation with you about it. The last thing we want to do is to create any sense of embarrassment where you're scratching your head and thinking, actually, I didn't write this, AI did, and you're tripping over your words. That credibility then sort of gets impacted. So please do use AI. It's there to support you, but I think use it within reason and use it to help articulate your thoughts to get yourself started. But don't become reliant on it, because you lose the core skills then that really matter in a working environment.
And you need to be ordered, etc. But you also need to have that personality come over as well, and individuality and authenticity that you talked about.
Absolutely.
That's super. Some great questions coming in the chat. What things should you write in the profile section of your CV without sounding cliched? And I guess in a way that is part of the problem, isn't it? Sometimes, you know, we can all write things that sound, you know, somewhat similar to somebody else, or, you know, people say, I love to do this, or I'm passionate about that. But I think it's about finding perhaps some individuality. Have you got anything you can mention about that, Hardeep?
Yeah, I think again, try not to get lost in too many buzzwords. You know, I'm a motivated, I'm a passionate individual, because everyone is motivated and everyone is passionate, but what makes you that type of person? Which is why I said to put key achievements at the beginning first, because they are unique to you. Your key achievements are not the same as anybody else. And if you think about it, that actually is a bit of a profile, isn't it? Because your profile is saying, I am Hardeep, these are my key achievements. That makes the hiring manager look into it and say, that's really interesting. How do I get to know more about this person? And that's when you pick up the phone and call. And that's when you receive a call from a hiring manager. So that's what I would say.
Thank you, that's brilliant. We've got a question. Would your law firm also work with youth social workers or have any connections with those who do? It's quite specific. I don't quite know what our student has in mind there, but I don't know whether that's the case.
I think it depends on the area of law and practice. It depends, but typically if we do work with youth and social workers, I'd imagine they'd be third party to the business as opposed to being sort of someone that we employ. But if you want to drop me a message about that question in a bit more detail, I can answer it outside of this platform and support with any sort of question that you do have.
That's really helpful. And Nikki, if you'd like to email careers@keds.ac.uk, then we can forward that on to Hardeep, and perhaps she would be so kind as to respond to that in a bit more detail, if you can tell us what you were thinking, so we can find some kind of information out. And does your firm offer degree apprenticeships? Is another question.
Yes, that's something that we will be looking to do in the very near future. So we will be opening our applications up for solicitor apprenticeships. For those that know about it, it's a 6-year route to qualification, and the way that we intend to run it is that you would join the business. So if you remember those legal and the non-legal roles that I mentioned to begin with, we're hoping that you would start off in the non-legal sections of the business first to understand the structure from the ground up, moving around to secretarial roles and things, and then your last 2 years you do your legal rotations, and that just makes a really good strong solicitor at the end of the 6 years, where you understand all elements of the business and then sort of the legal seats as well. So it's something that we are looking to offer. So do keep a lookout on our career pages for more information, or connect with me on LinkedIn, or, you know, I'll pop in my email address below afterwards. If you want to keep in touch with me and ask any questions, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Thank you, Hardeep. And I think that actually brings to mind one of the points I'd like to make as well, is that students shouldn't be looking just for apprenticeship roles. They are early careers, and very often they are entitled different things, and they lead on to professional qualifications and advancements within the firm. And I think it's really important to look at those early careers and see what is suitable for college leavers, rather than just looking for the word apprenticeships, because if you search for apprenticeships, you could miss a whole raft of different roles that are suitable and that would engage 18-year-olds. So that's, I think, a good practice, isn't it?
Completely agree with that. Yeah.
Thank you. In your education section of your CV, should your grades be listed per subject, or the range of your grades, like 7 GCSEs, 7 to 9? And to keep it short and brief, I guess there are a couple of ways of looking at that.
Yeah, exactly. There are a couple of ways of looking at that. I think if you've done a unique sort of module, then yes, definitely list it. I don't think there's any harm with listing it per subject, because it shows us individually like what subject you've done really well at. So I would say per subject.
And contrary to that, sometimes I've noted that some people, once they've gone on to higher qualifications, A levels, etc., they tend to list how many they've done with a range of, and particularly refer maybe to math, science, and English to draw those out, where those are kind of essentials to the business, maybe.
Yeah.
So that's another approach, I think,
Absolutely.
isn't it? We've got, are cover letters necessary? Do they improve your chances of getting the interview, and what should you write in it? And I think that's a good question, because the CV has a very particular sense of purpose as a tool for an employer, and also that cover letter or email these days tends to be just a little bit different. Have you got some tips on that?
Yeah, so I think again it depends on the organisation that you're applying with. Some organisations will ask you to fill in perhaps 2 or 3 screening questions that draw out your reasons why, followed by a submission of a CV. Some will just ask for a cover letter and a CV, and essentially, if you think about it, they're asking for the same thing. So if there's not an opportunity to answer any questions, and your cover letter is really important, because that's your opportunity to say, this is me, this is why your role is enticing to me, this is why I've applied, this is what I can bring to it, please find and close my CV for further information. So it sort of sets the scene in advance. Nothing really sort of guarantees you getting an interview, but your experience is what guarantees you getting an interview, and the content really matters on that. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful to you.
That's lovely. And there are plenty of examples. I think Faye's been putting things with links into the chat function. And actually, there's plenty of information that we provide students with on the website, and there are plenty of links there in using some of those links that Faye's put on there to give you some ideas of what might go in both your CV and potentially in any cover letter too. We haven't got any other questions that have been asked in the chat, and I do want to sort of tie this up, but Hardeep, that's been so very, very useful, not just to understand perhaps the direct roles within a law firm, but also that range of roles that you said, the portfolio of roles, and that applies to any job sector, whether you're applying to a supermarket, a law firm, any of sort of firms where people are employed in very different roles. So I think it's important for students to understand the cross-section of roles that are involved in various sectors, and look at those a bit more widely. And also thinking about the principles that you've talked about, like the STAR technique, and those hints and tips that you've said about good CVs, bad CVs, are so applicable across the application process. So that's been very, very helpful. I hope that students and parents have taken some really good things from that. Hardeep, it's been great to have you online tonight. If anybody's got any questions, please email into careers@, and we'll pass on both the presentation, if Hardeep, if you don't mind sending that to us, and also any answers to any questions that students may have individually. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us on this speaker series, and we look forward to seeing you on the next ones. Thank you very much indeed, all.
Thank
Good
you.
night.